Is the one where people sign up to-
Councilwoman Bravo, you said is on?
Yes.
The yellow one. Call the roll, please.
Council, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Jack.
Thank you.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Here.
Councilman Best,
Present.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There's a quorum present.
Okay, great. All right. So this is the city council is sitting in. This meeting is for the city council to sit in as the local planning agency. And we're starting this meeting at 6:30 today on June 13th. And this is to recommend, to see if we have a motion to recommend approval of the ordinance, which I'm guessing Heidi or William will read on murals.
Sure. If you want, I'll go ahead and read it. This is a public hearing item, but for members of the public who may be watching and for the benefit of the mayor and council, this item, you are sitting in your capacity as the local planning agency. So if you would like to be super efficient, you can approve, you can do a motion to recommend approval of the ordinance as is. And then during the council meeting, we can discuss the ordinance, or you can have the discussion now. But you don't need to have a full-blown discussion now and at the second reading. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if we have the full-blown discussion now and decide on changes to the ordinance or any amendments that would carry on into the next one, we'd rehash it, or what?
You
happens?
would make the recommendation with whatever recommendation you make at this meeting. I'm just trying to make use of our time since we have about 20 minutes before the council meeting starts. You could do that. You could either do a simple motion to adopt as is and make that recommendation to the city council, and then have a discussion on any revisions that you'd like to make during the council meeting, or you can do it now and make it's still a recommendation with whatever changes you recommend now. And then at the council meeting, you would have your motion to approve or adopt or not at the actual council meeting as amended or as recommended. So this is item 2A of the LPA agenda. This is an ordinance of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, amending chapter 150 zoning code, article 14, additional regulations of the city's code of ordinances by creating section 150-46 murals to define and prohibit murals and provide for amortization regulations for existing murals in the city, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
To the chair.
Yes.
I would like to amend item E on this resolution in respects to extension of the amortization period. I've had many discussions back and forth earlier today in respects to this. I oversaw this item on the resolution the last time. This is just not putting a stoppage to the bleed. There's no limitation capsule here. So as far as I can understand this, an owner can continuously apply for an extension over and over and over, leaving the city in a very bad position where we can't deny essentially any application. So I would like to propose to amend this item to a more defined, with a more defined definition. We want to be fair. I get that. So maybe we can talk about, maybe they shouldn't remove their mural, in this case, the UTD for June of 2023. Perhaps we can prorate the time to when the mural came up to maybe 4 years. And then when those 4 years comes, it will lapse. And then we can get all the properties up to compliance with our no mural prohibition ordinance. But in this case, there is no way that if we open up this can of worms for extensions, I mean, how many extensions can you get at the end of the day? And I was just having a very hard time understanding how we close this section and just, you know, have a good definition of this item, especially if our city manager or any designee has to make a decision on this. And I don't want to get back to square point A where we're infringing on any rights or whatnot. I would want it to be more clear. I would like to get your feedback, my council members and mayor, on what you think about this, because it's really, it's not a fair, the verbiage is not fair. And I would like to amend this to a definitive removal period without extensions.
If I may, Mayor, is my mic on?
Yes.
It is, okay. The portion of the code of the proposed ordinance that Councilwoman Bravo is referring to is subsection E. That subsection provides that the owner of the mural, right now, let me take a step back. Right now, the mural ordinance provides, one, that murals are prohibited in the city. That's number one. Number two is that to the extent that there are murals in the city, and as I believe all agree, there is only one mural in the city. So only one property owner is affected by this. So to the extent that that mural is going to continue, then we've put in a date that it would be grandfathered in until June 30th of 2023. That date is completely within your discretion of what date to choose. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter. It does need to be reasonable, but that is your policy choice. So that's the date that I think Councilman Bravo is referencing. What I want to clarify is that subsection E of the ordinance provides for a concept of an extended period of time. So if the owner of the one mural in the city wanted an additional time period beyond the June 30th, 2023 date, then within 30 days of being notified of this ordinance and these regulations, which would presumably happen, let's say, no later than the end of July, just to have a clear date. Within 30 days, they would have to make their request for an extension. They don't get to make a request for extension 3 years from now. So I wanted to clarify that because I think there was a misunderstanding on that point. And that extension request would go through the city manager's office and it would need to be supported by data. And Councilwoman Bravo, I'm gonna extend to the council what we shared because I know you're not feeling very well. What I understood from my discussions with Councilwoman Bravo is that she would like to eliminate subsection E, which would eliminate the opportunity to seek an extension and instead simply provide for an amortization period that is different from what's currently set forth in the ordinance. In other words, a date other than June 30th, 2023. Did I describe your intent accurately, Councilwoman?
Yes, and I mean, I want to be fair. So for me, a year, that was, it was great and it was harsh if you want to like, you know, move on, but it kind of contradicts itself. So yeah, I would like to maybe just give them more time to have their mural, maybe, you know, up to, I don't know, 3 or 4 years from the time that the mural came up. And then we close it then. That's yeah. So basically, in essence, that's what I am requesting. So instead of having them go through all this work of requesting an extension for an unlimited amount of time, because at the end of the day, the issue is that there is no limitation. There's no time limitation or limiting. It won't limit how many times they can apply for the same extension. Which it's for that we don't even put a no mural prohibition together because it will be there for the lifetime because they will continue to apply for the lifetime while they're there. But yeah, I mean, if we want to be fair, perhaps extend the timeage of, you know, how long the mural can be there and just eliminate this amortization period. or you leave it and they have a maximum application of 4 times. I don't know. It's up to the council as a group, but
Through the chair.
yes.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were finished. So I'm gonna take like 2 minutes because as you know, I was sick when we first heard this. I really wanted to participate in the conversation. And in principle, I agree with what Councilwoman Bravo was saying. You know, my preference would have been to just grandfather in the mural and not have to include anything in here about murals, because it's just, we're only talking about one mural. And whatever it is, if it's 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, it's one mural. We're not gonna have anyone else asking for extensions of murals because we don't have them. So I would have preferred we just grandfathered them in. So
Can I
I-
ask for clarification on what you mean by grandfather? What-
yes,
Do you
the
mean,
mural stays up.
well, the mural stays up under the current ordinance as drafted. Do you mean stay up indefinitely?
That's correct.
Okay,
Stay up.
okay,
And period, end the sentence.
okay.
That would have been my preference. Now,
Okay.
having said that,
And you can still do that.
I know I can still do that. But I think that you know, I would be, I think it would be better if we just established a clean prohibition on murals,
Mhm.
right? With no extensions, because we only have one mural, and deal with the murals separately so that we don't even have to drag the city manager into this. It's just one mural, so we don't need to include that there. We'll have a prohibition on murals, period. I'm not happy with it, but that's still what the majority wants. And that we deal with this as a separate matter, right? Whether it's 4 years or 5 years, whatever it is, because I don't think it needs we need the language in there because we only have one mural. So no one else is coming back to ask for an extension on a mural. And that would be my thought, that we go in that direction, but that's my thinking.
Councilman?
Through the chair. Councilwoman Bravo, thank you for your thoughts on that. However, I think it defies logic to extend this thing with some sort of sunset provisioning. I'm in total agreement with Councilman Vasquez that it should be left for perpetuity or without sunsetting it. You know, I'm going to borrow a word from the mayor from a couple of meetings ago and really 3 meetings ago, actually. I like art. And there's a lot more that can be done in this city relative to what the UTD did there, relative to the thematic references of how this city was founded, relative to aviation and some of the things that Curtis did going forward. And so I don't think we should be closed-minded to the point that we will disallow this forever in this piece of legislation right here. And I'm totally against it, but I certainly think that E, if you want to speak to E, as the councilwoman did a moment ago, it should be in perpetuity. Never mind it 3 years, 4 years, and have them renew and all that. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
So just to clarify, E is the section that would provide for the ability to seek an extension. The
Amortization.
No.
No?
The amortization period is in lines 59 to 61
Right.
of the ordinance,
Right.
subsection B. And the amortization period provides that all murals in existence upon the effective date of this section, i.e. the one mural that we all know about, which are made non-conforming by the provisions of these regulations, shall be removed by June 30th, 2023. That's the amortization period.
Understand.
So I think what I'm hearing from Councilman Best and Councilman Vasquez is that you would basically revise this to be that you would either pick a new date other than June 30th, 2023, or make it indefinite. And you would eliminate by providing either of those options, you would eliminate the option of coming back to seek an extension. That's where I just want to make it
My
clear. 'cause-
understanding is Councilwoman Bravo is saying the same thing, but with a
Yes.
date and eliminate, we're talking about
Yes.
eliminating the extension.
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo is saying coming up with a date of 2023 or whenever and still eliminate the extension that's final.
Yes.
the Councilman Vasquez and Councilman Best are saying forever, which obviously you have to think forever. Things need maintenance, ideas change, we're opening it up for a whole bunch of possibilities that there can always be a mural there and it may not always be what was the original intent because obviously forever things change. But what my question is on either one, regardless of what happens, how does that prevent whether we say that the mural can stay up? What did Councilwoman Bravo say, 4 years from the time it was up, or forever? What is to prevent any other litigation if say it's forever and the mural changes? It's not the mural that was there. It's just now we put up a different mural and we have a spot where it's like kind of like a billboard.
So
What's to prevent this whole process, which is draining for us, for UTD, for, our staff to, start again? I think there has to be some finite thing here where we just don't go through this process
And
again.
there is. So the ordinance, for those following along, subsection C in line 62 to 64 actually provides the way the ordinance is drafted, the one mural becomes a non-conforming mural. And so non-conforming murals will still be subject to regulations and they're set forth. The first regulation is that a non-conforming mural may be continued through the amortization period, whatever you deem that to be, but it shall be maintained in good condition and shall not be extended, altered, or enlarged. So they can't change the mural. They have to maintain the mural, but they can't put up a brand new mural. That's not the intent of this. That's not how it's worded. That's not the authorization that's here. You don't get to expand a non-conforming use. Then it also goes on in line 66 at subsection C little 2, a non-conforming mural which has been damaged by fire, explosions, acts of God, or the public enemy to the extent of more than 50% of the surface area, etc., may not be restored, and the exterior of the building or structure has to be painted consistent with the provisions of the code. In other words, if it's damaged and it's more than 50% of it is damaged in any of those ways that are described, the mural has to come down. And then you paint the building consistent with the rest of the paint of the building.
Through the chair, what if it's damaged by nefarious means?
I would put that into the mix.
Okay,
Who determines the 50%?
The public,
city would.
it's in there.
William.
The city would determine that it's 50% less or
Yes. So I think practically it would probably go through the building or zoning department, and a determination would need to be made. And that's common with how we treat buildings when we're going in for, when you have a homeowner who's coming in and doing a substantial improvement, the building department could ask for an appraisal to confirm whether or not it's more than 50%, and then certain guidelines kick in. So it would go through that department.
anything else?
So Heidi, you said that you could add language that it would, because it seems to me that it's already been defaced once, right?
Twice.
Twice it's been defaced?
No, I think the second time it wasn't the mural, it was the
It was another paintball thrown
truck
at it.
or a
Yeah.
bus or something, a property of the unit.
Right.
Okay,
The mural itself, just one time.
right. So it was defaced once. And I think that if you're putting language that if something happens to it so that 50% of it is damaged, then it can't be restored. And I think that that's kind of asking for
It to be damaged.
somebody to try to damage it
Right.
to the extent to which,
I see what you're
Wouldn't-
saying. I see.
right. So I would,
Guidance the damages.
if it's to stay, I would not want there to be language that would encourage people to
Understood.
damage it to the point
Understood.
where then it wouldn't be able to be restored.
Good point.
I think we can certainly clarify the language on what damage means, now that I understand where you're going with this. I think we can either clarify it or, fire, explosions, act of God, or the public enemy. It would not, I'm sorry, I may have misspoken earlier. That would not apply. If
Okay.
it were defaced, like a criminal act, somebody comes in
Right.
and defaces
Right,
it. no.
only because it's happened before, so
Yes.
we wouldn't want to
understood.
encourage.
No,
That
that
would not, they would just have the right to bring it up to
Restore it,
whatever.
yes.
Okay.
yes. I'm sorry if I misspoke earlier.
Okay. Anyone else?
Through the chair,
Yes,
I'd
Councilwoman.
like to make a motion to defer this item to the next meeting with the amendments that I proposed, defining a limit for time for removal and to void application for extensions.
Do you want to make, if you know what that extension is, do you want to go ahead and make a motion now? Do you have an idea of?
I would, I'd be inclined to proposing a prorated date from the time that the mural has been displayed on the building. I think that was March of 2021. So I would say from March of 2025.
Okay, so do you want, are you making a motion? Do you want to state your motion?
I just stated the motion. I can repeat it if you.
Yes, but you're
I-
also putting something with the removal of E, right? With your
Correct.
motion?
So it would be removed, the removal of.
That-
Removal of
The-
E extension, sorry.
I'll go ahead and repeat what I think we all understood your motion to be, Councilwoman Bravo.
Please, thank
The
you.
councilwoman's motion was to defer adoption of this item until the next council meeting in order to provide for an amortization period through March, the end of March of 2025. I can't remember if March is one of the months that ends in a 30 or 31, but March of 2025.
31.
Thank you. So March 31 of 2025, and eliminate subsection E of the ordinance. That's something that, that was the councilwoman's motion. I want the council to know that if those were the changes that you collectively wanted to make, we could make those here tonight.
Asking is why we would have to
So-
defer that if that's the councilwoman's motion, including removing E, which was the appeal. So make sure that I understand what's going on, is there would be a date established. We're establishing a new date as to when the mural has to be removed, but there's no appeal, and that's an extension of what is already here. But we're removing the ability for the appeal from there and for further extension from that date, whatever it is. Is that correct? Is that Councilwoman?
That is correct.
Okay, and the reason, is there a reason? I'm just trying to move this along because we've been on this forever. Is there a reason that you want to delay it for the next meeting? Because that's, motion
Actually,
you passed.
no, there's no reason. I take back the deferment.
okay. All right, is there a second on that motion?
So the motion right now is a motion to, I guess, let me reframe your motion since you removed the deferral aspect. The Councilwoman Bravo's motion is to recommend, as the local planning agency, adoption of the ordinance with the revisions that the amortization period would be March 30th. The date for the amortization period would conclude on March 31st, 2025. And we would eliminate subsection E of the ordinance, which are lines 80 to 91.
That is correct.
Okay. That's the motion. There's no second. All right, let's do this then. The motion doesn't carry. Let's open it up for public hearing because we have to have that. So is there anyone that wants to speak just on this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. For the record, Javier Fernandez with law offices at 1200 Brickell Avenue. First, let me begin by thanking Councilwoman Bravo for her very fine amendments. Actually, we are in agreement with most of them. We wanted to highlight, number one, our concern about a public enemy actually defacing. We lived through that experience. If you could excise that language, we would appreciate it. We are also in agreement with fixing a date specific for the murals removal. We do not want to have to go through an unclear administrative process, so we concur with that change. Our request would be for a slightly more expansive timeframe. We're asking the board for 5 years, and let me explain how we got to that time period. currently under your code in section 15030 for non-conforming commercial signs, a sign like ours, if ours was a commercial sign, it would get up to 9 years, given the amount of money we have expended in order to remove it. So we figured in order to get to something that was reasonable, we would ask for 5. We're hoping that this board will accommodate us and change the date from 2023 to 2027. So June 30th of 2027 would be our request. With that, we're hopeful that we can incorporate those changes and we can bring this matter to a conclusion this evening. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Through the chair.
Just a second, Councilman Vest.
Counselor, I'm a little bit surprised that you would have pushed for 9. I think it should be in perpetuity myself. I mean, what do you do? You know, it's a beautiful piece of art. If that's an opinion, obviously subjective in nature, but you're going to say that this thing's got to be painted over in 5 years, in 9 years, in any years? Leave it be. Let it be.
Councilman, through the mayor, we would be very appreciative if it could stay indeterminate for an indeterminate period of years. We don't see how this mural in any way detracts from the future trajectory of the district. That's the purpose for amortizing non-conforming uses. You're trying to change the tenor character of the district. We think it just adds value, but it's probably because I woke up with 101 degree fever this morning. I'm appearing here, and so I'm a little tired, and I know my client would like to come to some sort of a amicable resolution. But if you would indulge us with 9 years or an indefinite period, we would certainly be amenable to that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Through the chair. Hi, Javier.
Hi, thank you.
I'm here
Good afternoon.
suffering with 102.5 currently. So, it's funny because you're going based off of our signage ordinance, which was your whole argument in the beginning of this case, that the mural did not fall under the signage ordinance. And now we want to use the signage ordinance as leverage to extend the timing on this mural. So if the mural would have fell within the signage ordinance, we would have, the code compliance board has removed all of those fines that we put against the UTD building, which were removed. Again,
Second. Okay, Councilman, Vice Mayor. Go
I'm
ahead.
done.
Thank you. So just to kind of recap, I think I made it clear when we voted on the appeal of the city saying that it couldn't stay. I felt strongly it was done. The mural was done without approval from the city, and I didn't like all the proceedings that followed that, but I voted to strike down the appeal and allow it to stay because I felt like the fight wasn't in the best interest of the city. I was under the mistaken impression that what the language in this ordinance was going to do was have them come back for a reauthorization. I see now that that's actually part of subsection C, the subsection on maintenance. So I had a question. Does that mean that yearly they will, or is it just who is going to decide whether or not maintenance needs to be done, or it has been altered, or it?
That would be through a code enforcement process. So
Okay, so then there's no time frame for it, right? So there's no yearly reauthorization.
no, there is no yearly reauthorization.
Okay,
The
but it still has to be maintained.
correct.
Okay, so it has to be maintained, but it can't be altered or enlarged. I feel like the city kind of got the short end of the stick in dealing with the UTD on this one, because I felt like they kind of rammed it down the city's throat. And at the time I voted in favor of striking down the appeal because, again, I didn't feel like it was worth the fight in that particular case so that we could make a decision citywide. But I feel like if their council is willing to compromise with us in 5 years, I'm happy to have the amortization be 5 years and give them those 5 years. It's already been up since 2021. So I would be in favor of that as a compromise because I feel like that's what we are all in the business of up here.
Do you want to make a motion?
I would like to motion, then help me with this, Heidi.
Okay.
So it would be the date in 2027 that the counselor mentioned,
March 30th, first.
June
March.
30th,
June
2027.
June 30th, 2027. And then they got to keep it. I'd like to also remind everybody that I've spoke to tons and tons and tons of residents leading up to that vote on the appeal. Lots of people liked it. I said that we're lucky that lots of people like it. And even though that's a subjective thing, a lot of people did like it. I felt like it kind of caused some bad blood between the city and the UTD. So I didn't feel like it was in our best interest to get into that fight. But if they're willing to come towards us for a compromise, feel like it's also in our best interest to go to them and meet them halfway with it. I think that's reasonable.
Through the chair, I think that what Councilman Fahet says is reasonable. Although, again, I would like to see it in perpetuity, just allow the thing to stay. It was done. It's over. They beat us in court, so to speak, and you voted for it. So I just don't like what we're doing here. I don't like the feel of this whole thing. The fact that, and Councilman Vasquez wasn't here the last meeting, and the vote went 3-1. And you know who the one was. And so I just like to get us to maybe look forward a little bit at where we're going with what a mural is and what it could mean possibly to Miami Springs. And here we are cutting it right down. We're chopping it. We're just saying no murals, period. Why?
Okay, we've already passed that.
Mayor,
Councilman,
I know that,
so
but I got to say my
What
piece.
we're dealing with right now is,
I think what Walter
is-
Fahet says is reasonable. I'm still not going to vote for it, but he's a reasonable man in making that
all
statement.
right.
Through the chair.
Let's keep in mind what we're dealing with right now is the current mural that's up, how time period as far as this ordinance. And I would just like to say something of keeping anything forever. I think it's be irresponsible of us to pass an ordinance saying no murals and then say, but you know what, this is forever. We have a responsibility to future councils to legislate things that can be accomplished that don't present additional problems. Anything forever is going to cause problems. So I think a reasonable time date, I'm flexible as to what the council agrees on, but I certainly won't vote for something forever and ever that, if we voted no murals, then, but this one forever, because there's too many problems that are going to come down the road. It's going to have to be maintained. That the ideas change. Whatever is acceptable now down the road may not be seen as acceptable. We want to change it. It's going to not keep the colors for the whole bunch of reasons that we can't even imagine, just like we couldn't have imagined the pandemic. So I think it would be irresponsible for us to say, not give an end date on this when we have an ordinance that says no murals. But I'm totally willing to listen to, an agreement on what the council feels is a reasonable date. So
Mayor,
we have,
I'd like to make the motion, but I didn't make it because I wanted the
That's what
help
I-
of Heidi to help me with that.
Sure.
So-
So Vice Mayor Fahet's motion, as I understand it, is to recommend approval of this ordinance to the city council, because you're sitting as the LPA. Recommend approval to the city council of the ordinance with the modification that the amortization period that is currently set forth as June 30th, 2023 be modified to June 30th, 2027. And a clarification made that in the section regarding damages, defacement would not be something that would trigger having to remove the ordinance.
And removing
Removing-
extensions.
Yes, removing the entire subsection on the application for extension of the amortization period.
so if
So-
that gets removed, then it's a finite date. There's no
Yeah.
appeal, there's
Yep.
no, that's the date that it has to be removed.
I'll second. it.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
There's no,
And I would actually just ask for UTD council's indulgence to confirm that they would also stipulate to that.
Yes, ma'am. And Mayor, we agree that there would be no extension beyond the 2027 date. We would just ask for one modification. The line with respect to the reference to or public enemy, if that could be stricken since it has been defaced. That'd be the only modification we would ask
Sure.
beyond what was mentioned.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so
All right.
do I need to say it or that
Uh,
that'll stand as the motion?
Does that stand
my
as the
name.
motion? Okay.
Okay, that's my
All right,
motion.
is there a
Thank you.
That's your
second?
motion.
That's
All
my
right.
motion, what she said.
Is there a second?
I got one.
I think Vasquez.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
I'll take it
Okay,
back.
no, the motion dies. There's no second. All right, let's continue the public
Jackie
hearing.
Wood?
Is Jackie in on?
Jackie, are you on?
I'm on. I'm on.
Okay, you didn't second. We just want to make sure we didn't miss you, right?
Thank you.
You didn't second the motion.
I deny. I
Correct.
believe Vasquez did.
Okay. All right, so let's,
no, Vasquez did not second the motion. I was under the impression as well, but he did not second the motion. So Vice Mayor Fahed is waiting for a second if you'd like to offer it. If not, the mayor is going to move on to.
continue the public hearing if there's not a second on this motion.
I like what what Vice Mayor Councilman Fahey has said. I would just like to, I don't know, to prorate that date from the time that the mural went up, dating back to March of 2021.
So what date would that be then?
That would be
So,
March of 2025.
Okay, Councilman Fahed, do you remember?
Sorry, so the date that Councilman Fahed said.
Well,
I'm
you
sorry,
can
Vice
make
Mayor.
any motion
Yeah.
you want.
I know, but I'm
But-
asking, it's a question.
Well, I think that's initially what you had offered.
He had
What
said-
the
Madam-
council.
Madam Mayor, I think,
Amendment to your motion.
Okay,
I think, Madam Mayor, we want to compromise. The only issue with the proposed motion is that we actually just invested more money into correcting the issues that the mural since it was defaced. And so I understand it was erected in 2021, but we'd like the date to start from this calendar year as opposed to the original calendar year for that reason.
okay, so we have a motion of 2027 and 2025. Is that correct?
No,
I mean, not a motion, you have a motion of 2027.
Yep.
Councilwoman Bravo would second it if you amend it to 2025. Do you see any wiggle room there of amending your motion? If not, we'll move on. The motion dies and we'll move on to public hearing.
I would like to take the deal that's being offered to us so that we can have that compromise. That's my motion is 2027.
Okay. Is there a second for Councilman Fahed's, Vice Mayor Fahed's motion? All right, the motion dies. So let's continue with the public hearing. Anyone else want to speak on this item? Okay, I'm closing the public hearing. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Madam, come on up.
Maria Diaz, 620 Plover. I think we're going around in circles here. The problem, the mural is beautiful. The problem is not that the mural is not beautiful or that we should not allow other murals. The problem here is that it was done with no permit. It was not done by city code. And we have been going around in circles. And as a city, we have been spending a lot of money on this. If I, as a property owner, would have put a mural in my house, this would not be going on. This would not have gone to where we are today. So I think that if it was done without permit, without, I believe it went to the board, it was denied. So I think that it should be taken down because, and if they want to start fresh when the murals are allowed, let them start fresh, like everybody here in the city has to do, by code and by permit. And that's me speaking as a private owner. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Anyone else? All right, I'm closing the public hearing. Okay, so we are back to
Square one.
square one.
To the chair,
Yes, Councilwoman.
I want to make clear that we also have exhausted our own city resources and funds to attend to this matter. So I think on both ends, both city and UTD have invested time and money to this case. So I do want to find a fair resolution, but it should go, dated back to the time that it went up, in consideration that we've removed thousands of dollars in fines.
Okay, my understanding is I can pass the gavel to the vice mayor and I can make a motion?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, Mayor, you can.
to move this along. Ta-dun, ta-dun, ta-dun. All right, I would like to make a motion, the same language that Councilman Fahed has used, eliminating item D and with a termination date, and I'm going midway between Councilwoman Fahed, Councilwoman Bravos and Vice Mayor Fahed's recommendation of 2027 that Councilman Fahed had motioned, and Councilwoman Bravo had motioned 2025. So I will say June of 2026, which is right in the middle.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Let me clarify a couple of things. When we opened up this hearing, I said that my preference would be for the mural to remain. However, we came here to discuss an ordinance, et cetera, because when you read the ordinance, it talks about murals. But what we're really talking about is one mural, right? And just to clarify, we had no prohibitions on murals in the city. That's part of how we wound up where we are now. If this passes, we will have prohibition on murals, and no one can apply for having a mural. And if someone did paint a mural, it's a clear violation of the ordinance. Am I clear on that, Councilman?
Yes, and I appreciate the clarification.
Yes, yes, yes. I just want to be clear on that, what my preference would be, right? But I'm always of the mind of trying to work at this. See, I'm with Councilman Best, right? I think this whole matter has taken us away from the essence of the kinds of things that people who believe in art, and I think everyone here, I have even people who were opposed to a UTD said the mural is beautiful, because it is. It's a beautiful piece of art. And so I'm a little concerned about the precedents that we're setting, but hey, who knows what will happen in the future under other city councils, right? That could change. But having said that, then I think 5 years was a reasonable time frame, and that's what I would consider supporting. But if this is the language of the mural, then of the ordinance, then I will be voting against the ordinance.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we have a motion, a first and a second. Do I take the gavel back to call the vote?
Yep.
Or does the vice mayor call the vote?
Call the vote?
Vice Mayor Fahet,
No.
Councilman Best,
Nay.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez,
No.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion fails.
Okay. So I will therefore close the, what is this called? Local planning, LPA?
So we need a recommendation from the LPA to the council, an affirmative recommendation, one way or the other.
Well,
So
Recommendation that we
Yeah.
continue this in the,
Okay, a
council
recommendation that
council
we
meeting.
continue this into the next meeting,
yeah,
into the,
I'll move
Meeting
that.
now.
Yes, ma'am.
regular.
All right.
regular
I'll
council
move
meeting.
that.
Yeah.
Recommendation.
everyone in agreement? Do we need a vote on that?
Yes, ma'am.
He just needs to
Vote.
adjourn.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry.
No, just
Yeah,
voice
yeah.
vote. I think we're all in favor of that.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Council
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
All right. Okay, then we close this meeting.
What was the yes? I'm sorry.
On the recommendation that it be
That we
taken up by
continue
the,
this.
by the
So
council.
you're moving to approve, you're recommending to approve the ordinance as drafted.
Yes, and move it to the next council meeting.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Yep.
Heidi, can you provide clarification on what you just said? Are we approving this ordinance as said? What action does this take exactly?
I'll clarify. The council, the 6:30 meeting for members of the public who are here anxiously waiting for the 7 PM meeting. The 6:30 meeting was the council sitting in its capacity as the local planning agency. The local planning agency makes a recommendation to the city council. It's a little unusual because you're wearing two hats and you're making a recommendation effectively to yourselves.
Correct.
So you are not adopting the ordinance by making this recommendation. You are simply moving it to the next stage. And at the city council meeting that is going to occur right now, once this meeting is adjourned, you are going to consider the ordinance on second reading, sitting as the city council, and you will make a determination at that point, and you can either adopt the ordinance as amended, or I'm sorry, adopt the ordinance as drafted, make modifications to it, defer it.
We'll basically go through the same process.
Exactly.
All right.
And thank you.
So
For the purpose of closing the local planning agency meeting, you don't have to approve the ordinance. This is not approving it, but you are making a motion to, you can make a motion to recommend approval. Actually, you could make a motion to reject the ordinance. But I think in the interest of moving things along, it seems like everyone would like to make a motion to recommend approval of the ordinance as drafted, and then you'll take it up at second reading, just to keep the ball rolling.
okay. Do we need a motion for that then?
Yes.
All right. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion for the extension of the LPA to the regular council meeting for today's date.
Is there an extension? I mean, a second.
Second.
All right, call, any more discussion?
What was the motion?
Well,
To recommend to the council meeting.
Oh, I heard extend.
No.
No.
no,
Okay,
Okay.
motion to,
Extend to the regular council meeting on this date today. The LPA to the regular council meeting, the discussion. That's what you're saying, right?
no,
What,
I'm saying to make a motion to recommend approval of the ordinance.
well, I already voted against it. Why would I approve it?
I understand. You can also make a motion to reject the ordinance, and the city council would hear your rejection at the city council. meeting.
I think it's, Counselor, I think it's pretty plain what my objection to it is. I don't need to reiterate. So
maybe
if you want a
something
motion to
else.
move it to the regular meeting, you have one from me. What was, you have to get it to the next meeting, right? That's what I'm trying to do
You need
for
to
you.
make a recommendation. Your recommendation can be to reject the ordinance,
Or approve.
deny it, or approve it with modifications.
Which one is it, Bob? We're gonna, we're gonna second it and move it
Dun,
to the council.
Either way,
Dun,
we're
we're
going
going
to
to
go
go
through
through
the
the
whole
whole
process.
process.
Go through this whole process
By the
again.
way, it sounds
I know.
like there's 3 votes to, in some way, approve the ordinance.
Correct.
So maybe that
will
will be
move it to the
easier if
next
someone from
process.
that side makes a motion to approve the ordinance.
Okay, we'll go with your wordsmithing there. That's fine. Good.
Okay.
My-
Is there a second?
I already
Moved it,
seconded.
Second. Okay, so
Let
any
Bob
more
know that she
discussion
accepted it as
Yes.
a valid motion.
to approve it to,
Councilman Best's motion to
It is.
approve the ordinance as
Yes.
drafted.
okay, call the
As-
vote, please.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
No.
Councilman Vasquez,
no.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes,
The motion carries.
okay. So now we close the LPA
Okay.
and we are formally opening the city council meeting. Let's see, I adjourn that meeting
Meeting adjourned. Yes.
and going to start the next meeting. Anyone that wants to sign up, I'll give everyone time. If you want to sign up for the next meeting for a regular city council meeting to speak at public forum or the public hearing, go ahead and do that now. You need to sign up at the podium. Or with Erica, she's got it. I want to make sure everyone has time. Okay. All right, we're going to start the next meeting. Call the vote, please. I mean, call the roll. Call the roll.
That's funny.
Meeting is started.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fahet,
Here.
Councilman Best,
Present.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
Okay, thank you. Let's all stand, please, for the invocation by Councilman Victor Vasquez.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect the residents of this city. And continue to remind us that all we do here tonight all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. We'd like to ask everyone to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Careful.